One of the things that I found interesting in picture is who are the big Silicon Valley giants that are controlled by the Pentagon and the military network. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, I say that there are massive connections between the Pentagon and the intelligence networks that are based on mutual mutual benefit. For instance, if you were the Pentagon's the Pentagon intelligence complex, there's three things that they want. There's many things they want, but there's three things they really want. One is 24/7 surveillance of the population, and your Facebooks and your Googles and etc. Give them that. Two, they want to control what people see and hear. And what we have seen is a incessant movement of information from newspapers and even television onto the internet. And what that does is it makes the information able to be subject to algorithms where codings can dictate what's seen and heard without even a human input. So the tech giants and the information giants out of Silicon Valley, and I include Amazon in this because while its home is in Seattle, its spiritual home, indeed some of its branches are in Silicon Valley. And thirdly, what the military intelligence complex wants, and indeed further deeper in the shadows, what controls them wants, is a humanity that is connected through technology to artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. Now, this is not some crazy conspiracy theorist pulling this out the ether. This is what people like Ray Kurzweil at Google, this so-called futurist, this Google executive, he's openly talking about that by 2030, the human brain will be connected to artificial intelligence, and not least through technology, microchips and nano microchips, not even the level that you can see. And he says quite openly that as artificial intelligence becomes more and more intelligent than humans, then less and less of the human mind, human consciousness will be used, and more of AI, until human consciousness, as he puts it, is basically negligible. And what he's describing is artificial intelligence becoming the human mind. And, some of us ask the next question, well, who's controlling artificial intelligence, which is becoming the human mind? And the reason that they are openly telling us this is the sales pitch. And the sales pitch is that when we connect to artificial intelligence, we'll become superhuman. This is the sales pitch. And as I explain in the talks in Australia coming up, there has been a simple step-by-step process to addict, especially the young, because they'll be the adults when this is supposed to be full-blown, to addict young people particularly, but people in general, to technology, and to take them along a very clear kitty road, whereby first you get them addicted to technology they hold, then you get technology on the body, your Bluetooth and all these gadgets that people wear now, connected to the internet. And then you go in the body with microchips. Now, my books in the 1990s were predicting this. They were saying this is the plan, to microchip humanity and connect us to an artificial, what I used to call then an artificial technological sub-reality. So it's unfolding. It's happening. And I spoke in Sweden a few months ago. 3,000 people have been microchipped in Sweden now, so that they can open doors and do other things without actually, pushing them open, the lazy sods. And there's a story broke in Britain just a few weeks ago that the trade union organization and the employers' organisation, the Confederation of British Industry, were pointing out how worried they were that companies were now preparing in Britain to microchip their workers. And this was in my books from the 1990s. And if you then go and look at what's happening in these internet giants in relation to their own workers, you'll find stories where employees of people like Google and Amazon and Microsoft have actually come out and said, look, we don't care for this connection that these companies have with the Pentagon and with the intelligence complex. Microsoft have openly said that they're passing information over to the military, what they call the honorable military. Well, not all of them are, by the way. And you've got Amazon now that people think is just a retail website, but one of its major functions is this whole cloud stuff. I mean, when Kurzweil talks about connecting humans to artificial intelligence, he uses the word cloud, connecting humanity to the cloud. And so the cloud starts becoming the human mind. And the workers and employees of Amazon have come out and said, well, what's happening? Because they've got a $600 million contract, Amazon, with the CIA. They've got upcoming, if they've not signed it yet, a $10 billion contract with the Pentagon. And these are all for, quote, cloud services. And then you look at something I've been exposing for a very long time, an organization called DARPA, D-A-R-P-A, if you've not come across it. And it's the technological development arm of the Pentagon. Then you look at IQT or InQtel, which is the technological funding, seed funding arm of the CIA. And they're seed funding companies to develop technology that they think will be beneficial to their surveillance control, information control agenda. And DARPA claims on its website that it created the internet, which of course was created with military technology. And this is what's happened, Matt. This has been the process. You create the internet, and you want the internet to become the central pillar of human society. It's to a point where it's irreversible. Well, we're there now. To get to that point, you've got to sell an internet that people want. And so what you had for many years was an uncensored, free-flowing information internet. You then start to develop companies that you want to be the dominant near monopolies of this internet. And to get them to that point, they too have to be what people want. So they come out, and you have the free flow of information. You have search engines like Google and Google-owned YouTube, where the bias is not there, and you can be a little guy, you can get at the top of the search engine if and stuff like that. But then there comes a point where and we're past that now, the internet is the central pillar of human society, irreversibly. 2, these internet giants have become just that, near monopolies. And now we're starting to see the internet that was always planned, fishing line out, now the fishing line's coming in, where you've got a situation where increasingly vast amounts of information that people receive to form their perceptions are coming from the internet. That's now algorithmically controllable. So you're having the more and more blatant censorship, the manipulation of search engines like Google, so that alternative information to the official narrative doesn't get seen like it did before if you put certain keywords in. And we're seeing the internet now becoming what it was always meant to be. And the idea is, tell you how fast this is moving, mate. I remember not long ago in my books warning about the plan for the Internet of Things, where all these technologies, cars, televisions, everything are connected to the internet, fridges. And that seemed a kind of amazing thing. What do you mean? That sounds crazy. But now we're big time there. The next stage is to go from the Internet of Things to the Internet of Everything, as they're calling it. And that's when the human mind is also connected to the Internet.
What does that ultimately mean for society? What's the end goal of the tech companies and the military with all of this?
Well, the end goal, basically, you're looking at a hierarchy. So you have Silicon Valley, the Silicon Valley giants, that I call Silicon Valley the devil's playground. And they are the point of delivery. You go back one step and you hit people like the Pentagon and the intelligence networks, and they are the people basically behind what is delivered and why it's delivered. And then you go back deeper into the shadows, and you're dealing with networks of secret societies that don't put themselves on public display. So the implications for humanity are imminent and blatant when you look at it dispassionately. And that is that, first of all, the plan is to move to a situation where the public worldwide only see what they are supposed to see and hear, what the authorities want them to see and hear. And so you're having all this censorship now of information that's not what they want them to see and hear. And this also explains why there's a war against freedom of speech. Because while we have freedom of speech, they cannot create that situation where we only see and hear what they want us to see, because freedom of speech gives the freedom to put another view and circulate other information. That's why there's a war on freedom of speech, because they have to get rid of that to reach that situation of monopoly on information. But the big thing then is, besides that, is to connect the human mind to artificial intelligence. So, see, perceptions come from information received. So if you want to manipulate perception, which you have to do to control the population, then you manipulate the information people receive, and people make their perceptions from the information they receive, basically. But this next step, this end game, is actually to connect the human mind to artificial intelligence. So there's no manipulation of information even necessary then, because people are getting their thoughts and their perceptions direct in exactly the way that people like Kurzweil explain and say is coming, but tries to put a positive spin on it by saying we'll be superhuman. We won't. We'll be subhuman. We'll basically be assimilated into artificial intelligence. And I'm coming up 67 now in April, and the vast majority of my life, none of this technological stuff was going on. It's so recent, and it's unfolded so fast. And so his talk of 2030 and that kind of period is well, if you look at the speed of the way this is being rolled out, it's very credible that what he's saying is a good timescale.
Every single event that we've done anywhere in the world, there's been certain groups that have contacted venues, made outrageous libelous claims about what David's going to speak about, and have, in many cases, got venues to cancel on us.
They tell the organizers that I'm going to go on the stage and I'm going to say a stream of racist things, none of which I have ever said, none of which am I ever going to say. What then happens, staggeringly, is that instead of coming to you and saying, well, these people have said you're going to say this, you're going to say that, what's going on? They pull the event. And we hear about the event we've been organizing for months being cancelled. We hear about it in the media.
In Germany alone, for example, I've been in touch with over 70 venues, and we've still never managed to pull off a Germany show. And there's a venue that we had in Berlin, which to this day, nigh on well over a year, have never actually contacted me to tell me the event's been cancelled. I found out from a German newspaper when they published a story about it.
And my website is blocked in schools and universities and colleges. It's blocked in government departments and government agencies. And here's me, one person, who was supposed to be this great nutter, and the system is desperate to silence what I'm putting out and to stop as many people as possible ever hearing it. Why? The other thing is journalism. You know, I've made my feelings very clear over the years about mainstream journalism. I used to be a mainstream journalist for a long time on newspapers and radio and television, and how the limitations are put in so that you can only go so far. And if you cross that line, well, you know, what are you going to do for your job now? But that question is coming anyway. You know, Google has instigated a phenomenally funded operation to create AI journalists that write the news. I mean, like with no human input. I mean, that Bloomberg started to use them now with company reports and stuff like that. The idea is that AI is going to be writing the news. I mean, you see, the thing is that this is so big, and you know, what did the Nazis say? The bigger the lie, the more we'll believe it. Well, the bigger the agenda, the more people won't believe it, because they'll think, well, no, they wouldn't do that. While every day, step by step by step, they're bloody doing it. You know, some of us predicted a long time ago this war on freedom of speech and this Orwellian society, and how technology would become the controlling force of human society. And it's happening, you know, and not because, you know, you're pulling it out of the ether, but if you do proper journalism, and instead of just repeating the official story, you question it and see if it stands up, it takes you into some very interesting areas, not least because if someone's lying to you, they're not doing it for fun, they're doing it for a reason. So the next question is, why are they lying to us? Why don't they want us to, don't they want us to see? What do they don't want us to know? And then you go down that road and all this stuff starts to unfold and make total sense of what's happening, because one of the greatest defense mechanisms is something I call randomness, where you things happen in the world across a range of subjects, and when they kind of, you know, happen, they are promoted or presented as random events. But you know, as I'll do in these talks in Australia, when you put random events and connect them, events and subjects and everything that seem on the surface to have no connection whatsoever, when you connect them, my God, the pieces become a picture, and you see what